Hello and welcome back to Israel with Aline. Today we are in Hebron, one of the most important cities in the Bible, and we will visit the tomb of the patriarchs, where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and the matriarchs Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah are buried. We will discover the history and archaeology of this place. And we will end our day with exclusive images from the forbidden part of the tomb of the patriarchs. And stay tuned because we are going to tell you something new that you won't want to miss. So if you're ready, let's get started. The city of Hebron existed long before the birth of Abraham. An example are these staircases. They are original from the early Bronze period. That is, they are approximately 4,500 years old. And they were the entrance to the city, and part of this entrance was precisely this wall. When God speaks to Abraham to leave his land, the land where the Chaldeans lived, for the promised land, for the land of Canaan, all of this already existed. They were millennial constructions. And there are constructions not only prior to Abraham, but also constructions that are exactly from his time. For example, this other wall, which is from the Middle Bronze period, it's really amazing to be able to see the same objects, the same constructions that Abraham and Sarah saw when they lived here in the city over 3,800 years ago. Our matriarch Sarah lived here in Hebron, and also here she passed away. Sarah lived 127 years, died in Kirjath Arba, which is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Abraham came to mourn Sarah and to weep for her. And Abraham then needed a plot of land to bury her, but he had no property here in Canaan. He was then a stranger. He was originally from Ur of the Chaldeans, and so he is now going to buy a plot of land, a cave near the city of Hebron. Abraham chooses the land where the cave of Machpelah was located, which then belonged to a Hittite man named Ephron. And when Ephron finds out about this, out of respect for Abraham, he offers the land for free. But Abraham does not accept. Abraham insists on paying, and not only that, he pays the market value, the real value of that land and that cave. And the agreed price was 400 shekels of silver. Perhaps he insisted on paying to secure this property for himself and his descendants. This reminds us of another story that is reported in the Bible, which happened approximately 800 years later. When King David decides to buy the land for the construction of the Jerusalem temple, the land belonged to a man named Araunah. It was then a threshing floor, a place to thresh grains. Araunah says, "Don't worry, I will give you the land for free." And David insists on paying a fair price. And precisely the importance of these two places purchased, one which is the place where Abraham and the patriarchs and matriarchs were buried, and the other place where the first and then also the second temple of Jerusalem was built. These lands were bought with money, and precisely these two places are the most contested and conflict-ridden places in all of Israel to this day. Perhaps if Abraham's idea and David's idea was to avoid property problems in the future, maybe they knew what was coming. It didn't help. And precisely also about part of this conflict and the prohibitions we will get to know with our own eyes today. We can already see here the tomb of the patriarchs that was built on top of the cave of Machpelah. Abraham buys the land of the cave of Machpelah, but clearly this whole building that we are seeing here behind is not a cave. Where is the original cave? What is the most important of this place? The cave is down here. We can see some of these rough stones. We can see that they are part of the original terrain and also down there in the archaeological excavations. The Machpelah cave means the double cave. And why this name? There are two theories. The first theory says that this is the original name because the cave inside, that is the cave that is here below, it is double inside. And the other theory says that this is also the name given because here were buried the pairs, the doubles, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, and Jacob and Leah. This place becomes of enormous biblical importance and also becomes a place of pilgrimage. However, everything changes with the arrival of King Herod the Great. He was a megalomaniac builder and did most of the great constructions of Israel, arrives here over the original cave, over the cave of Machpelah, and simply covers it with a gigantic construction. And what we see here behind us is precisely this construction made by King Herod the Great. And see one more amazing thing. If we come here to the wall and look at its details, it is exactly like the Wailing Wall, with gigantic stones, with a kind of frame, the same type of texture, the same type of finish. And this shows that the same people who built the expansion of the Temple of Jerusalem, the Wailing Wall, are the same people who did this work. However, all of King Herod's constructions, Caesarea Maritima, Masada, the Temple of Augustus, Herodian, the Temple of Jerusalem, all the constructions he made were partially or totally destroyed with one exception. The tomb of the patriarchs is the only construction of King Herod that remains intact. From the first to the last stone, all of them are original. And it's not every day that we can see something so special, a biblical and historical site so well preserved. And now I invite you to enter with me into the tomb of the patriarchs. We say that Herod's construction is preserved from the first to the last stone. But if we look at these small and so simple stones, clearly this is not from the time of Herod. Herod liked to do everything in a colossal way and in the smallest details. What happens is the original construction is preserved. However, over 2,000 years, some things were added to the building. And precisely this first room that we are entering now, it is a later addition. But come here with me. Look how wonderful. The moment we get here, we can see that these stones are the original ones. So in the time of Herod, this was the entrance to the tomb of the patriarchs, and now together we are really going to enter. When Herod built this complex, all this area was open. There were no internal divisions, there were no columns, there were no roofs. All of this here are later additions, which began in the Byzantine period and followed later in the Crusader periods and also in the Arab periods. But what we really came to do here today is to visit our patriarchs, the fathers of faith. And who we already see here by our side is written in Hebrew, the memorial of Abraham, our patriarch. But look how interesting, when it's also written in English, it's written the tomb monument. This is because we have to understand very well, folks, that Abraham is not in this monument. Despite looking like a tomb, Abraham is not inside it. Where is Abraham? Abraham is beneath our feet inside the cave of Machpelah. Now look at this drawing. We are at this level and the original cave is much further down. And near here, near the marking of Abraham's tomb, is his wife Sarah. Come here with me. Her marking is behind this golden grate, and we see people praying here, but they are not praying to Sarah, but to God, but they are doing this in a significant place historically, which is over the cave of Machpelah, over the fathers and mothers of faith. The cave of Machpelah, the cave of the doubles, we just saw our first couple here, Abraham and Sarah, and now we are going exactly to the room right in front to see Jacob and Leah. Come with me. This is the memorial of Jacob's tomb. He is also called Israel in the Bible. And he, along with his wives, gave rise to the 12 tribes of Israel. Here is the tomb of Leah, one of Jacob's wives. But where is the tomb of Rachel, his beloved wife? The Bible tells us that she died on the way to Ephrath, giving birth. This is near Bethlehem, and Jacob buries her where she died. And that's why she wasn't brought here to be with the other patriarchs and matriarchs. But we do know where she's buried to this day, even though it's not with the rest of her family. And where is our third couple, Isaac and Rebekah? They are behind this wall. However, notice one thing. The place is locked. That's because the tomb of the patriarchs is divided. This part that we are now is accessible to Jews and Christians. And behind this wall, access is exclusive by the Palestinian Authority, and over there, access is restricted. It's forbidden for us. You can see here on this map, this division. The purple part is the part accessible to Jews and Christians, and the yellow part is the part accessible only from the Muslim side. And that's why we don't have access to the marking of Isaac and Rebekah's tomb. But something much more important than that, which is on the other side. When we talk about the tomb of the patriarchs, walking here in the Herodian part, seeing a preserved construction from 2,000 years ago, it's amazing. However, the most important thing in this place is not this construction, but the cave of Machpelah. And where is the entrance to the cave of Machpelah? Right here on the Muslim side. And that's the main point. The entrance to the cave, to the original cave, exists, but it's on the Muslim side. And even more than that, they locked the entrance even though it's on their side and no one can enter. And since we like archaeology so much, we want to make sure we are really at the site, right? But archaeologists don't have access to the cave of Machpelah. No one can enter there. The only reports we had about the cave were old. There are reports from crusaders who entered and saw a large underground space. Also, in 1922, the archaeologist Luis Vicente mapped the cave and reported seeing tombstones and several openings to other caves. But these reports brought no physical evidence. They didn't take pictures, nor did they bring to light findings or archaeological remains. But everything changes on a night in 1968, after the Six-Day War, when a Shin Bet officer and others receive a special authorization from Moshe Dayan, the defense minister of Israel, an authorization to be able to enter the underground part. And they find what looks like a closed flower, but which in reality is a small access to the underground. However, when they see the size of the entrance, none of them fit. But who did fit was one of their daughters, Michal, a young girl of only 12 years old. And then she had the great privilege of going down to the underground and seeing what really is here under our feet. And when she comes back from the depths, she tells what she saw, and she really saw a cave and took some pictures that we are precisely seeing them on the screen. Now I will also put here on the screen her report translated into Portuguese, and those who want can stop the video and read the whole report calmly. And once again, in the year of 1981, some young people who studied at the Midreshet Hebron, which is a biblical study center, arrived here one night and discovered a larger access to the cave of the patriarchs, larger than the one Michal had entered. And so these young people did manage to enter the underground and see the cave with their own eyes. And they described that the cave really is Machpelah, it's a double cave. They described that the cave had a larger entrance, a large hall that narrowed and led to a second hall. Really a double cave. But more than just bringing the description, they found pieces of pottery and utensils inside the cave. And they brought them to the archaeologists, and the archaeologists did a dating and found out that these ceramics are approximately from the 7th and 8th century before Christ. This means that it is at least 700 years prior to the construction of Herod. And it was further discovered that these ceramics were not originally from Hebron, but were brought from other regions such as Galilee and Judea. And this fits very well with what we know, that this was a pilgrimage site for people who followed the Bible. They came here to visit their parents of faith. Long before Herod built all this that we are walking through, the people of Israel and everyone here in the region already knew about the cave of Machpelah. We keep walking and we see here once again this extremely reinforced and secure wall, and also, as you can see, locked. The Muslim side that for us usually is inaccessible. But today, here in Israel with Aline, we will have access to exclusive and unprecedented images. Let's see with our own eyes what is hidden here behind. However, the access is not from here. As you can see, it is really well locked. The access that we are going to see, it is on the Muslim side, on the outside. So we have to leave from here, from the tomb of the patriarchs, and enter from the other side. So let's now see together the forbidden side for us of the tomb of the patriarchs. It's really impressive to think that the tomb of the patriarchs, this building, has a border running through the middle of it. Yes, this side that we are seeing belongs to the Palestinian Authority, and the other side where we were before belongs to Israel. The border is right here in the middle. Notice here on the entire side there is a large space to store shoes. This is because this area functions as a mosque, and it is mandatory to enter barefoot. You can also notice that there is almost no one here right now. This is because we are in the month of Ramadan, which is the holy month for Islam and the month of fasting, and therefore they end up coming here much less. In front of us, we see the marker of Sarah's tomb. The other side is visible from the Israeli side, and from here it is seen from the Palestinian side. And this here is the marker of Abraham's tomb that we also saw from the other side. See how moving this place is. We are now in what is known as Isaac's Hall. And here we can see the memorials of Isaac and Rebekah. And continuing the walk, see what's here. Do you recognize this flower? This is the entrance to the cave of Marpella. Here begins the tunnel through which Michal entered. The entrance to the cave of Machpelah exists to this day. It is here. But as we can also see, it is locked and entry is completely forbidden. But I do not lose faith or hope that one day, yes, the entrance here will be allowed again, and that we will be able to know even more deeply our patriarchs and matriarchs. In Genesis 12, it is written that God says the following words to Abraham. And I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, and in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. Through the land of Israel, from Abraham and his family, God's blessing goes out to all the families of the earth, to all nations. And that's also why, this is another reason why I consider it so important to study in depth the history of Israel, starting precisely with Abraham and his family,